In this video, I'm going to walk you through some power user tips for editing notation in PolyNome. I'm going to be using keyboard shortcuts on the iPad version, and these also work on the Mac version. And you'll also learn just generally how to enter notation, how to create playlists, how to do some kind of sneaky things that can speed up your workflow. So what I'm going to be using is this YouTube video which has 15 levels of difficulty with reading music, just as a starting point. So there are 15 exercises, each is 4 bars long. So I have my iPad set up in split view here, and you can see I'm in the library. I'm going to go to playlists, and if you have a keyboard you can do Command 2 and that will take you to the playlists tab. And then I'm going to create a new playlist, which you can do by tapping on the plus button in the top right, and I will call it 15 levels of reading, and then save this. So we have our playlist here, and it's telling us we can tap to edit. So we'll tap on the pencil, and I'll begin by adding a bar. So a bar in a playlist just represents a rhythm preset. It can actually be multiple bars. In this case, we have name plus time signature on. You can see it would call it 4/4 if I didn't give it a name. I'm going to type in exercise 1, or in fact level 1. And I'm going to tap this to turn off the time signature. So instead of being level 1 4/4, it will just be called level 1. And then tap the plus to add it. So we have our first bar in here, and I can view the notation for this by tapping on it again. In fact, I have to exit edit mode and tap on it again, and then we can see the notation here. And what I'm actually going to do is create all 15 levels and then fill them in. So there's a shortcut to do that. I'm going to tap on this sidebar to maximize this screen and show you that you can swipe between screens. So I now want to duplicate level 1 and have level 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 15. And there's a fast way to do this, which is to tap and hold and go to the duplicate menu and choose duplicate item auto number. And I'll do 14 copies, and this will create 14 copies of that item and label them with increasing numbers. If you were to do the same with level 15 and duplicate here, it would call them 16, 17, 18, etc. So now what we're going to do is fill in level 1 with this notation, fill in level 2 with the next notation, etc. So I can tap on this and it will show me the notation here. And I'm actually going to make this full screen here. So we're hiding the playlist, and you can use these buttons to navigate through the playlist. See, we're in level 3 here. I can go back to level 2, back to level 1. And when you see these like this, instead of plus and minus, it means you're in a playlist. If you want to temporarily exit the playlist to focus on just this one preset, you can tap any of the red controls. So this says play once. If I tap it, it says playlist off. And now I can change the tempo. I can loop this preset. And when I'm ready to go back into my playlist, I can just go here, select it. And now you can see that we're back in the playlist with the red controls and the forward and backward buttons. So the next step is to edit this rhythm. So I'll tap on the rhythm menu and choose edit rhythm. And now I want to enter this notation into here. So we begin with 3 quarter notes and a quarter note rest. So I can just delete that last quarter note and put in a rest. Now this page, you'll notice down the left hand side, you have this bar line at the top. So when this is selected, these buttons will give you subdivisions of a bar, no matter what time signature the bar is in. This one will give you divisions of a whole note. This, divisions of a half note, divisions of a quarter note, an eighth note, and a 16th note. And then if you select the dot at the bottom for any of these, they become divisions of a dotted note. So you can have divisions of a dotted quarter note if you wanted, for example, 3 eighth notes beamed together that aren't a triplet. Again, hit the dot to turn that off. Now there are keyboard shortcuts for these. B is bar, W for whole note, H for half note, Q for quarter note, E for eighth note, and S for 16th note. So most of the time we'll be on Q for quarter note, and that's what it is when you open this page. And then you have divisions of a quarter note. So 0 on the keyboard gives you a rest, 1 gives you 1 note in a quarter note. 2 gives you 2 notes in a quarter note, so 8 notes here. 3 for triplets, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. It's very quick to enter them with the keyboard. It's also very quick to enter them by tapping on them. So the second bar, we need quarter note rest, quarter note rest. So with the keyboard, 1 0 1 0. The next bar, 1 0 1 1. The final bar, 0 1 0 1, or rest 1 rest 1. And then this is done. So you can hit enter, and then we can hit the right arrow to move to the next level, and in YouTube I will select level 2. Now to enter rhythm 1, hit Control and 1. That's the same as tapping on the menu and choosing edit rhythm. So I'll do Control 1 to edit, and then you can do Command backspace, which clears everything in here. That's the equivalent of long pressing on the del button, allows you to clear the whole rhythm. So now we want 2 quarter notes, a group of 8th notes and a quarter note. So 2 quarter notes, a group of 8th notes and a quarter note. The next bar, 2 2 1 1. The next bar, 1 0 2 2, and then 2 1 2 1. So you can see it's very quick to enter with the keyboard. Hit return, and then we'll move on to level 3. Control 1 to enter rhythm 1. Command delete to delete everything. And now we want 2 4 2 4, 1 2 4 1, 2 0 1 4, and 4 1 4 1. Enter, and we're done with level 3. Let's move to level 4. So things are going to get a bit more interesting in level 4. Right arrow, and then Control 1, and then Command delete to delete everything. So here we have 1, and then we have a group of 4/16 notes, but one of them is missing. So in order to do that in PolyNome, there are multiple ways, and I will show you all of them. The first way is to tap on the 4/16 to enter all 4/16 as a group, and then tap the edit button that brings up this note and rest editor. And we want to remove the last one because this is 2/16 and an 8th note, which lasts for 2/16. So if we take off beat 4 here, you will see the notation up there becomes the same as this. And if you're not familiar, you can play around until you find what you want, but there's plenty of tutorials explaining how this notation works. So let's go back, and a quick way, if you don't have a keyboard, to do the same thing is to long press on this group of 4. That adds it after the highlighted note and brings up the edit window in one go. And then if you're on a keyboard and you've entered this, you can hit Command E to bring up the edit window, and you can tap 1, 2, 3, and 4 to toggle those notes. So I'll toggle off note 4 and hit enter to close this. You see that the next group of notes is the same as this one. So you can actually duplicate these notes by long pressing and choosing duplicate, and that gives you a copy. You can also copy them by long pressing and choosing copy, and then you could tap over here and paste. And another little trick, if you want to copy all of these 3, you can long press on this and choose copy. Long press on the end of where you want to copy to and choose copy to. And then you can paste everything that you copied. So that's a kind of hidden feature. And finally, you can save this rhythm to your saved rhythms. So if you long press on this and choose save, it appears in your saved rhythms down here. So you can just tap on this to enter that saved rhythm. And there's a keyboard shortcut, which is Option 7, which will enter whatever the saved rhythm at number 7 is. And you can rearrange these by going to the edit menu and arrange. You could say, I want this one first, and then we can ignore the rest, hit done, and that will put this in position 1. So now to enter that rhythm, you can hit Option 1 and it enters it. So that's probably the quickest way, is to save these custom groupings and enter them that way. So let's go through the rest of this. We have a 1 here, and then 2 4, and then this is our save rhythm, so Option 1, and then 2, and then down here our saved rhythm, Option 1, and then 1, Option 1, 1, and then 2, Option 1, 0 for the rest, and then Option 1. So very quick when you've got them in the saved rhythms. Okay, so we'll move on to level 5, but actually I don't really need to show you all of these. I'll just show you a couple more. In fact, let's go along to level 15, which should have a combination of lots of different things. And I'll go and find level 15 here with the right arrow key and Control 1 to enter the rhythm, Command backspace to delete everything. And so now this would be an opportunity for me to save all of these different note groupings to the saved rhythms. So I'm going to edit my saved rhythms here and delete these ones that are not relevant. Leave this one that we've created. And by the way, if you're viewing this on an iPhone, there's 3 dots here which you can tap to switch between this palette view and the saved rhythms view. So we're going to go back up here and I'm going to hit Command 4 to enter 4/16 and bring up the edit window. And then I'm going to tap 3 to take out the third note. And you can see we get this. And then I'm going to do Command S to save it. That doesn't work when this is up. I will fix that in a future release. While this is up, you can tap on the menu here and save the rhythm. So that gets saved to position 2. And then we're going to enter this one. So again, I'll hit Command 4 to bring up the edit window. And this time we need to turn off the note in position 1 so that we get a rest there. And this is a dotted 8th. So we also need to turn off the notes in position 3 and 4. And then we get this 16th with a dotted 8th. And again, I can tap on this and save the rhythm. And then I'll show you another way that we could do the next 2. I'm going to hit 4 and 2. And then I'm going to use the left arrow to go back to the 4 and Command E to edit. So I could have just put in 2 8th notes, but I'm going to take out notes 2 and 4 to give us those 8th notes. And then while this is up, I can use the left and right arrows to navigate between them and keep the edit window up. So you might find that a quicker way in future if you put all groups of 4/16 in and then work through them and take out the ones that you don't want. Now, here's another tip. I entered 2 8th notes, but actually I need a group of 16th notes and take out the first 2. There's something you can do in this menu, which is to split notes, and that adds in the 16th notes in between, but as rests, which is a quick way to allow you to easily add in notes between those 8th notes. Now in this instance, we want these 2 off and these 2 on. And again, I could choose to save this to my saved rhythms palette. So we'll move along and I'll enter Command 2 to bring up the edit window, choose 1 to disable that note. And again, I want to save this to my saved rhythms. And you just work your way along like that to enter the different notes. So that should give you everything that you need in terms of entering note groups, editing the notes within those, saving them, copying them, duplicating them. So a few more tips. If you want a reference of the keyboard commands, you'll find those in Help up here. This asks for user guide, but in a future version, I'll make it go straight to the Help. Now this is loaded in a navigation. When you want to go back, you should tap on this to go back rather than hitting the Done button. And it opens it in the app, but you can tap on this Safari button to open the help documentation in Safari. And I think it's actually a bug that it closes this window. So I'm going to go back into the edit rhythm. And now I'll show you that you can swipe between and you can view the help page, and there is a link to the keyboard shortcuts. So you can view all of the keyboard shortcuts for editing rhythms. So we've gone through the ones for navigating notation and adding it, but there are actually more for adding accents and ties, flams, drags, ruffs, and sounds. So I'll quickly go through those. So if you wanted to add sounds to these, you would tap below the notes and you get this palette of sound buttons. 3 different L's, 3 different R's, a K and an H. And you can see as I tap them, they're added to the notation up here. Now, you can use the arrow keys to navigate between selecting the rhythms, where you get the rhythm palette, if you tap up, you get the accent, ties, diddles options. And if you tap down, you get the sounds. You've got 2 lines of sounds which you can enter. So you could have, for example, hi-hats on here. And on the line below, you could have some kicks and some snares. The different commands here, if you tap the backspace button, it deletes what is before the cursor, which is the same as this. And if you tap this delete button, it deletes what is after the cursor. That's the same as doing command backspace. So for these 3 R buttons, the lowercase r is just the R key. The italicized R is Control R. And the bold uppercase R is Shift R. And with these 3 L's, lowercase l is just the L key. Control L for this italicized one. And Shift L for the bold capital one. And then K and H are the kick and the hat. And space gives you a rest, which means this note will not play a sound. So again, I can do backspace to delete those. And then if we do the up arrow twice, we're on the accents and articulations line. So A, or the caret button, toggles the different accent types, which is equivalent to tapping on this button multiple times. T toggles the ties. S, or the slash, toggles the slash key toggles those. S will toggle it in a future version. I just need to implement that. And F toggles the flams and drags, which is the same as tapping through this button. And again, the right and left arrows navigate through the notes. And finally, while you're on the sounds line, you can use Option with F, T, slash, and A to add the accents. So if I do Option A, you can see it's toggling the accents, even though we're not viewing those accent buttons. And Option F toggles the flams. So when you're entering rhythms, let's say I wanted to clear all this, and I wanted to, let's go Control 1 to edit the rhythm, Command backspace, and I'll do 4, 4, 4, 4 to enter some 16th notes. I'll hit the down arrow, I'll enter a paradiddle, so Shift R, and then L, R, R, Shift L, R, L, L to give me a paradiddle with capitals for the accents. And then I can go back to the beginning of this. I can choose Option A to add an accent to this. I can do Option A here to add an accent to that note. And in fact, if you want the accents to repeat in the same way as the stickings, you should detach the accents. So you can read about this by tapping on the info button here. But when you have detached accents, whatever you enter is repeated. So here you can see we have accent, rest, 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 and then it's going to repeat accent, rest, rest, rest. But read more about detaching accents by tapping on this info button right here. I'm just going to quickly address a couple of things. Quite often you might see in written notation a beamed 8th note with a triplet grouping. You can enter that in PolyNome, but it looks slightly different. You have to enter a group of 6 notes and edit it and remove these 2. And it shows as a dotted 8th and then a triplet with the bracket across the whole beam. That's the only way you can do it in PolyNome, unless you go to the 8th note division and enter an 8th note and a triplet. So the fact that that triplet beam is across all notes means that this has to be dotted for it to make sense. But that's how you enter that in PolyNome. So finally, one more thing that sometimes comes up. If you would like to group together, for example, 5 8th notes, all beamed together, you'll notice that if you choose the quarter note here and choose 5 from this division, then it groups them as a quintuplet. So this isn't 5 16th notes, this is a 5 16th note quintuplet that takes up the same space as one quarter note. Let's say you wanted to write 16th notes like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you wanted those to be beamed together. There is a way to do this in PolyNome, and you'll find it on this saved rhythms page. So again, if you're on an iPhone, you'll see 3 dots here, and tapping those will reveal this saved rhythms page. And on here, there's an X, Y button. If you tap this, you can choose to say, I want 5 notes in the space of 5 notes. So 5/16 notes in the space of 5/16 notes. And you choose the type of note at the end here. So if I do 5 in the space of 5/16 notes and then tap this button here, it adds 5/16 notes all beamed together. If you wanted 5/8 notes all beamed together, you would just change this to 8th notes. And if you wanted, for example, 7/16 notes, you would choose 7 in the space of 7/16 notes. And these can be useful if you're working in, for example, 5/4 or 7/4. You might want to have sometimes a group of 5/8 notes all joined together. And the quickest thing to do would be to save this. So Command S or long press and save, and that will save it to your saved rhythms. I guess it put it down here. I guess it's a bug that isn't showing up, but I will fix that also. But yes, saving the rhythms down there is a way to make them quickly accessible. I think that's enough for now. Remember, you can always check the help docs to find out more about different pages, where the keyboard shortcuts are. And if you need any help beyond that, you can contact me via the help page.